But first, the boys from SP talking about SP.
Yeah, good call. Siamese Dream versus Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness. And this was just kind of a random, it came up in our group text. Twan had a hot take. He just threw it out there and then we we discussed it. Because we do that even when the microphones aren't on, even when the computers aren't fired up. We do this anyway. So we were talking about it and we threw it out on Twitter. And I think Mellon Collie won, 64% to 36%, something like that. And I talked to a couple of friends outside of our group text. Rob told me he picked Mellon Collie because of the abundance of songs. And Spose, I think, quote tweeted us and was like, Mellon Collie because Siamese Dream is awesome, but Mellon Collie shows you where they could go. So there's a couple of people right there, friends of the pod, that have been on with us. They gave us their opinion, but we're going to give you our opinion now.
I love the background, context for people listening, because it's we obviously record and it's an output and a concentration to put something out to the universe that's very dialed. But the fact that it's happening sidebar all the time is we have receipts. Not that it's really needed, but it's no, dude, we're geeking out in our sleep.
Well, it's how a lot of the episode topics start. It's someone has an idea or has an opinion, or you just happen to listen to something. And I'll say this before you even jump in. I put that text out there just while I was listening to Siamese Dream. It wasn't even listening to the whole thing. It wasn't even with Mellon Collie in mind. It was just in this moment, SD is the GOAT, Smashing Pumpkins album. And I think we'll find out if I still feel that way here shortly. But so I don't know. How do we want to start? You just want me to give my opinion?
Yeah. Give us your opinion. You kind of you sparked this fire. Let's find out where you give us the moment that you thought about even bringing this text to us.
I like that.
And then we'll go from there.
So I was doing a little workout, I think I had a 90s alt rock station on, and Mayonnaise came on, which I'm a late bloomer with mayonnaise. Also with the food mayonnaise. The food mayonnaise sucks. But I was a late bloomer with mayonnaise. I liked Disarm. I love Today. Those are the big singles. And that, I heard Today before I heard Mellon Collie. Back, I think it was on MTV. So I liked that. But Mayo is the GOAT. And that's kind of what sparked this. It's it's like with sports, is the best player on the court typically is on the best team. So that was kind of the thought process. It's is Mayo good enough to carry this fucking thing? And then I thought about it. So then that's when I dropped that text. So I'll pause there. What do you guys love about SD, Siamese Dream, for all you SP noobs out there?
So for me, it was an introduction from my older brother with this band. So I got an early start on them. And so you got to think Siamese Dream's 93, Mellon Collie's 95.
Yeah. Yep.
So I lived it in the moment, but that was still kind of ahead of my time. I think we've chronicled that on the podcast where when did we actually start to really pay attention? It was more around the 95, 96, not in the 93. But I did live it in 93 when my brother was living it. And I remember thinking, his voice is really weird. This is super crazy, interesting music. Is this what music is? But I remember specifically when you said songs like Mayonnaise or even Luna, the beautiful ballad songs. I'm oh, I can dig this. Maybe because it was just easier to digest, but it was more welcoming, right? Because his voice is almost if you don't like it, you're not gonna like it. You're gonna run away from it. But when you see it, when you hear Billy sing, you're God, he's got a beautiful voice, and his lyrical delivery is just outstanding. So yeah, Mayo, I agree. I kind of pair it with Luna because those two songs stuck out back in 1993 to me, and I was this is amazing.
It's funny neither of you said Disarm, because I think Disarm might be my favorite Smashing Pumpkins song, even though I'll get into why I don't like Siamese Dream over Mellon Collie. But yeah, Nate, you're right. We probably were paying more attention around Mellon Collie just because that's as we're really formative music fandom. I was at my dad's a lot as a kid. My parents aren't together. And a friend of mine down the road from my dad's place got me into a bunch of different music, and Smashing Pumpkins, Mellon Collie, we listened to all the time, playing Super Nintendo in his basement. So I'm 10, 11 years old, and we're cranking No Doubt's Tragic Kingdom, Beck, We're listening to Our Lady Peace back then, but this record, I always came back to this record, and the two of us always came back to throwing on Mellon Collie because it was just, it's 2 CDs. It would take forever to listen through the whole thing, and we could just dick around playing video games and, you know, being 12 years old, 11 years old, listening to this shit. So that's where I kind of fell in love with Smashing Pumpkins, but Disarm, I think, is the best song on, as much as I love Mayonnaise and I love Luna, and a few, you know, Today is a great song. There's some great songs on Siamese Dream, but I think Disarm is at least a top 3 Smashing Pumpkins song.
It's definitely up there. It's definitely up there. And that's the thing. It's like that album has MJ and Pippin on the same team. You know what I mean? It's going to be tough to break that. But I'm not going to bury the lead. I do think Mellon Collie is the GOAT album. I thought about it, and it is. It has the visuals. It has the name. It has tracks. It's just this collective piece of art. But there's a but, right? There's a however. However, if I'm going to reach for an album, it's going to be Siamese Dream. Siamese Dream is less intimidating. It's got less, you know, there's less filler, I think. You got to be in the mood for Mellon Collie. The other thing is, I don't think the singles on Siamese Dreamers played out. Like if I listen to Mellon Collie, I'm going to skip 1979. I'm not skipping Tonight, but I'm going to skip Bullet. But with Siamese Dream, I'm letting all those singles rip, baby. I can just throw it on and let it rip.
I like the notion of the intimidation factor because I think that's applicable to everyone, record label included, where they're like, do you really want to put out double albums? This is hard to promote because people are going to be like, that's a lot to digest. So, and it's more expensive. So there's that too. So I thought that was a good point. But yeah, man, I agree. Disarm. I mean, the songs I wrote down today, Hummer, Rocket, Disarm, Soma, Geek USA, Mayo, and Luna. Those are like my top tracks, which is like half the record.
About pretty much, right? It's 13 songs. You're pushing about half.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the rest of that record doesn't have a ton of filler on it, even if you're not talking some of those top tier tracks, right? Like it lends itself to putting it on and letting it rock out all the way through because it's just a really well made piece of music. I would argue that the first side of Mellon Collie is better than Siamese Dream, just alone by itself. So if you're intimidated by grabbing the double album, don't be. Just listen to side 1 or listen to side 2. Side 2 is a little weirder. Got a bunch of cool riffs, different vibe. It has 1979 and 33 and Beautiful and a couple of, you know, quieter tracks on it too. But the first side, I could listen to all fucking day, every day. The piano intro into Tonight, which is probably a top, you know, 1090 song, into that kind of noise rock riff. I texted this to you guys on Jelly Belly, which you'd think would be a throwaway song because it's sandwiched in between Tonight and Zero. But no, that song fucking rules too, and it just doesn't let up. There's no bad songs. Some weird, long, ethereal tracks like Galapagos and Porcelain of the Vast Oceans. Fuck, man, you can't beat it. I love the first side so much, and I would say that I think it's even better than Siamese Dream, but that's just me.
So what you're saying is, fuck you, an ode to all of you.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yep, fuck you, an ode to everyone.
I would agree. Disc 1, which is what, Dawn to Dusk, that is better than the second CD. Because the second CD, I think that's where, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I think it's where it lost a lot of people. I think a lot of people went to that for 1979. But beyond that, I bet if you polled people, like even decent 90s rock fans, they couldn't tell you 2 or 3 songs on that second disc. And then there's people listening that are like, you don't know me. I'm a big SP fan.
Yeah, there might be. I mean, there are more cool tracks on that second side than people realize. Like Bodies is cool. XYU is cool. There's some funky, different chances taken, I think, on the backside, which people should check out if they haven't. As much as I'm riding for side 1 right now, I think side 2 is pretty badass too, just in its own way.
I think this is like a common theme too for double albums. Like you got to think Nine Inch Nails, Fragile. The same case, it's front loaded on that first part of that record. Pink Floyd, same thing with The Wall. Like I feel like that's not uncommon, and I don't know if it's because a double album was just a result of just so much material, where like it should have actually maybe been one record, and they were like, actually we can make this more of a concept album and draw it out a little bit, but it'll be front heavy.
Well, I think if we did, you know how we did the Weezer Tale of the Tape episode where we picked categories? I think if we did that, I think all three of us would probably land on Mellon Collie. Artwork, I mean, no contest. You know, theme and story and whole package type of thing, Mellon Collie all day. Best songs, I think that's where it gets a little close. I don't think any of us have any over nostalgia either way. I think we were kind of got into them somewhere in the middle. I don't know. I think Mellon Collie takes it, and I'd be interested because that, like we said, that Twitter poll, I had like 25 responses. So that means what? 10 people thought Siamese Dream. I wonder what, are they a little older than us and they grew up with it,
Yeah. Nostalgia probably plays a big factor into that. And when you got into the band, I mean, that happens to a lot of people. I think that'll happen. We'll talk about that a little bit in the next part of this episode when talking Rage, where I think all three of us got into them with Evil Empire. As much as we like self-titled, we were all kind of Evil Empire babies, and that's why that record resonated the most with us on the whole. And I'm just saying that. I don't know if it actually did. You guys have never actually told me that. That's the feeling that I get from this, and that's probably why we land with Mellon Collie versus Siamese Dream, as great as they both are, because they both are great.
So I think we all agree that Mayonnaise is our favorite track on Siamese Dream. But what about Mellon Collie?
No, dude. No. Disarm, bruh.
Oh, Disarm, sorry.
Yeah, that's for me anyway.
I'm a Mayo guy. But Disarm's right there.
For Mellon Collie, for me, it's Muzzle. What about you guys?
Oh, Muzzle is so fucking good. Favorite track? Really, like Twan said, you kind of have to be in the mood for it. So, like, it depends on the mood. Depends on what I'm looking for from Pumpkins. Because, like, I love An Ode to No One. I love Galapagos. I love Jelly Belly. I love some of the deeper cuts on Mellon Collie that obviously didn't get the time of day. But, like, you can't go wrong throwing Zero on. Like, Zero's fucking amazing.
For me, it's Tonight. And I think that's a very, cookie cutter response. But why I picked that is how many bands could have put that song together? Not many. You know what I mean? With some of these more rock songs that, they're not a dime a dozen, but I think there's other bands that could have pulled that off. Tonight, I mean, it might be 5 other bands on the planet in the history of ever that could have put something like that. Then you throw the visuals of the video on. I mean, fucking mic drop. Forget about it.
It's a great call. Not many bands are doing that then, and how many could, that we've listened to in this scene, in the 90s rock world could have pulled that off. Probably few, very few.
Any closing comments?
Closing comments. I mean, we were talking about it. We alluded to it earlier. The 90s is just such a pure, outstanding time for music output. This band may be underrated to an extent. I mean, I think they were definitely in their heyday and they had a full lineup, but the lineup has kind of come back together with the exception of Darcy, right? But I guess closing remarks is it was great then, but it's appreciated in value. Like, these songs are so strong. And listening to these songs recently in headphones, you hear like little pieces of layering that you didn't hear before, especially with Chamberlain's drumming style. You're like, God damn, this guy's easily one of the best drummers out there, and no one talks about him. So yeah, closing remarks, just great band, legacy artwork, legacy music. Yeah, man, it's great to revisit this stuff because it underscores everything that we talk about because it's I don't know, it's just beautiful music.
Well, and it's why we can probably do this for another 150, 60, 70 episodes if we want to, because we can do stuff like this where we revisit or pin a couple albums against each other that we all love, or bring an album to the table that the other two haven't checked out, that type of thing. So it's awesome to do exercises like this because it does help you kind of refamiliarize yourself with stuff that you probably spent a ton of time with. And I mean, the same thing's going to happen in this Rage segment coming up. Maybe I haven't listened to Self-Titled or Siamese Dream in this case in forever, and putting it on and going through it all and, putting the magnifying glass on a song and thinking about it differently than I had in times past, where it's just been on passively and I've had it kind of while I'm doing chores or exercising like you were doing the other night, Twan. It's fun to do both ways. And that's the beauty of all of this, is we can do it a million different ways and talk about it and have fun with it.